You stand in Constantinople's bustling square, the sun harsh on your face, the air thick with dust and sweat. It's the 8th century, and the crowd's roar hits you like a wave. Merchants, beggars, priests, all packed shoulder to shoulder, their eyes gleaming with a mix of dread and thrill. Before you, on a wooden platform, a traitor kneels, hands bound, his face pale as the marble statues lining the hippodrome. The executioner, a hulking figure in a leather apron, raises a blade that catches the light, its edge dull but cruel. This is no beheading, no quick end. This is castration, Byzantine justice at its most theatrical, where punishment is a show and mercy a twisted joke. The crowd hushes, then jeers as the blade descends. The man's scream splits the air, sharp as shattered bone, and you flinch, your stomach churning at the wet sound of flesh giving way. Blood stains the platform, a dark pool glinting like spilled ink. The executioner works fast, cauterizing with a red-hot iron that sizzles, filling the air with a sickly charred stench. You gag, but the crowd cheers louder, as if this is a chariot race, not a man's ruin. "Justice!" they shout, though some faces pale, their cheers faltering. In the Byzantine Empire, this is normal. A traitor's body altered to warn others. But normal doesn't mean humane. Imagine surviving this. Your identity carved away, left to limp through life under mocking stares. The victim's eyes, wild with pain, meet yours for a moment. There's defiance there, a spark that refuses to die even as his body slumps. Historically, castration was a calculated choice. Death was too final, too wasteful. A mutilated man could still serve, maybe even rise as a eunuch in the emperor's court, but at what cost? The crowd's bloodlust feels like a fever, infectious yet repulsive. You shift, your sandals grinding in the dirt, wondering who's next. A merchant beside you mutters, "Better him than me," his voice half laugh, half prayer. Sarcasm fits here. Justice, huh? More like a butcher's performance, with you as the unwilling audience. This isn't just punishment, it's a message. The empire thrives on spectacle, and castration, public, brutal, permanent, screams control. Sources like the Chronographia of Michael Psellos describe such scenes, where mutilation was both legal and divine, blessed by priests who saw it as God's will. Yet the horror lingers. The man is dragged away, alive but broken, his future a shadow of whispers and pain. You turn, the crowd's roar fading, but the image sticks, the blade, the blood, the eyes that won't forget. Welcome to Byzantine justice, where surviving the cut is just the start. Imagine you're the one holding the blade now in a dim Constantinople basement, the air damp with the tang of rust and fear. Tell it's the 9th century, and you're no executioner, just a surgeon's apprentice tasked with performing the merciful act of castration on a chained prisoner. The empire calls this mercy, sparing a traitor's life, letting him serve as a eunuch rather than rot in a grave. Mercy? Try telling that to the man writhing before you, his curses muffled by a gag. The tools are crude, a rusty knife, a bowl of vinegar to clean it, and a hot iron to seal the wound. This is Byzantine surgery, where survival is a gamble and infection a near certainty. The prisoner's eyes burn with hate as you hesitate, the knife heavy in your clammy hand. At historical records, like those in the De Ceremoniis, note that castration was precise in intent, but brutal in execution. No anesthesia, no sterile tools, just a quick cut and a prayer. The wound festers easily, and half the men die from fever, not the blade. You slice the man's muffled scream vibrating in your bones, and blood pools faster than you can mop it. The iron hisses as it burns the flesh shut, the stench like overcooked meat. You'd laugh at the absurdity if you weren't shaking. Congratulations, you've saved a life. Or ruined it. Why call this mercy? Because the empire needed bodies, not corpses. Eunuchs stripped of masculinity could guard harems or advise emperors without threatening the throne. Think of it as medieval HR's worst exit interview. You're fired from manhood but hired for life. Yet the cost is grim. Survivors faced chronic pain, urinary issues and social scorn, their bodies a living warning. The prisoner glares, his defiance unbroken despite the agony. You wipe the blade, wondering if he'll haunt the palace halls, plotting revenge. Some did, like the eunuch Narses, who rose to general despite his scars. Mercy, they called it, more like a lifetime in purgatory with you holding the key. You slip through the marble corridors of Constantinople's great palace, the 10th century's shadows clinging to your cloak like damp fog. Torches flicker, casting jagged light on mosaics of saints who seem to judge you. You're not here by choice, you're a scribe summoned to serve a man who defies the Empire's scorn. A eunuch, once a traitor, now a trusted advisor to the Emperor. His name is whispered, Stephanos, castrated for plotting against the crown yet risen to power. His eyes, sharp as obsidian, meet yours, and you feel a chill, as if he sees your every secret. In the Byzantine Empire, castration didn't just punish, it created men like him. Half outcasts, half legends. Their scars a badge of survival. Stephanos moves with a grace that belies his pain, his silk robes rustling like dry leaves. Historical records, like those of Leo the Deacon, describe eunuchs like him, men stripped of manhood but not ambition, serving as generals, treasurers, or spies. The Empire valued their loyalty, assuming they had no heirs to betray for. But loyalty? That's a gamble. You sit, quill trembling, as Stephanos dictates orders, his voice smooth yet edged with venom. The court fears him, whispers of his cursed presence, as if his mutilation bound him to some unholy pact. You half believe it. His gaze feels like it could summon ghosts from the palace's underbelly. The horror isn't just his scars, it's his power. Castration was meant to break men, yet some, like Stephanos or the famed general Narses, turned their shame into strength. They navigated a world that mocked them, their every step a defiance of the blade's intent. You scribble his words, ink smudging under your sweaty fingers, and wonder, does he dream of revenge? The air hums with that possibility, heavy as the incense curling from a nearby censer. Sarcasm fits here. Castrated for treason, promoted for talent, Byzantine HR's finest hour. But the whispers persist. Eunuchs like him plot in shadows, their loyalty a mask. You glance at his hand, steady as stone, and imagine it gripping a dagger. Surviving the cut was just the start. Ruling the court is his victory. You're pressed into a throng in Constantinople's square, the 7th century sun baking the cobblestones under your feet. The air reeks of sweat and rotting fruit, dust stinging your eyes as you crane to see the platform. A man, maybe a thief or a rebel, kneels, his face grey with dread as the executioner sharpens a blade with deliberate slowness. The crowd around you buzzes. Some cheer, some whisper prayers, others clutch their children, eyes wide. Castration, the Empire's brutal spectacle, is about to unfold, and you're trapped in the mob's fever, part voyeur, part victim. You want to look away, but the crowd's gaze holds you, their shouts a pulse in your chest. The blade flashes, and the man's scream cuts through the noise, raw and jagged. You flinch, your sandals slipping in the dirt as blood spills, dark as wine on the wooden planks. The crowd roars, a mix of justice and bloodlust, but you notice the faces, some pale, some trembling, their cheers forced. Byzantine sources, like the Chronicle of Theophanes, describe these scenes. Public mutilation was a warning, a ritual to bind the Empire's order, yet it terrifies as much as it controls. You catch a woman's eye. She's laughing, but her hands twist her shawl, betraying her fear. You cheer too, you think, until the blade's for you. The horror lies in the crowd's duality. They demand justice but dread its reach. One wrong word, one false step, and you could be up there, the mob's gaze turning on you. The victim's defiant stare lingers as he's dragged off, alive but broken, and you wonder if he'll haunt these streets. Sarcasm stings here. What a show, Constantinople. Justice as bloody as a chariot crash and twice as messy. The crowd disperses, but the air feels heavier, as if the square itself remembers the scream. You walk away, heart pounding, knowing you'll never unsee that gaze. You wake in a dank Constantinople cell, the 9th century's chill seeping into your bones, your body screaming where the blade carved its mark. The pain is a living thing, a throbbing pulse that drowns out the drip of water on stone. Castration, the Empire's so-called mercy, has left you alive but hollow, your identity slashed away in a public square's roar. You shift on the straw mat, wincing as the crude stitches pull, the wound still raw, reeking of vinegar and burnt flesh. The guard outside sneers, calling you half-man, and you grit your teeth, the humiliation worse than the pain. Welcome to Byzantine justice, where survival is a curse dressed as a gift. Your fingers trace the bandages, sticky with blood and pus, as you recall the executioner's iron searing your skin, the crowd's laughter ringing like a fever dream. Historical texts, like those of Procopius, describe survivors facing lifelong agony, chronic infections, urinary struggles, a body that never feels whole. Some died from fever, others from shame, but you're still here, each breath a defiance of the blade's intent. You imagine the court, where eunuchs like you might serve, their scars hidden under silk but never forgotten. The thought is bitter. They spared your life to chain you to theirs. Sarcasm fits here. Congratulations, you're a walking warning sign, courtesy of the Emperor's kindness. The world outside mocks you. Merchants turn away, children point, their whispers sharp as knives. You limp through alleys, your body betraying you with every step, yet your mind burns, plotting a future beyond this ruin. Some eunuchs, like the General Narses, turned their pain into power, their scars a silent vow. You clench your fist, the pain grounding you, and swear you'll do the same. The Empire thinks it broke you, but you're not done. In the dark you hear whispers, other survivors perhaps, their voices like ghosts. They say the blade cuts the body, not the will. You believe it, because you have to. In the great palace of Constantinople, the 10th century's candlelight dances on gold mosaics, but the air hums with dread. You're a courtier, your sandals silent on marble, as you pass a eunuch, once a rebel, castrated for treason, now a shadow behind the throne. His name, Theoctistos, is spoken in hushed tones, his presence a reminder of the blade's work. His eyes, cold as winter seas, seem to pierce the court's secrets, and you shiver, sensing something uncanny in his stillness. The Byzantine Empire crafted these men, broken yet powerful eunuchs who navigate the palace like spectres, their loyalty as questionable as their scars. Theoctistos moves through the hall, his robes whispering like a conspiracy. Historical records, such as the Chronographia of Michael Sellos, note eunuchs as key players in Byzantine intrigue, trusted for their lack of heirs, but feared for their grudges. Castration was meant to tame them, but some, like Theoctistos, turned pain into cunning. Whispers say he plots revenge, his soft voice weaving schemes in darkened corridors. You catch his glance, and it's like staring into a void, empty, yet heavy with intent. A modern analogy fits. Think of a corporate backstab, but with togas and higher stakes. The court buzzes with paranoia. Nobles clutch their wine, eyeing Theoctistos as he advises the emperor, his words smooth but sharp. Rumours swirl of cursed loyalty, of eunuchs who haunt the palace like ghosts, their mutilation are packed with something darker. You edge closer to a tapestry, its threads depicting martyrs, and wonder if he sees himself in their suffering. His hand rests on a scroll, but you imagine a dagger. The Empire created him, but can it control him? In the flickering light his shadow stretches, too long, too alive, and you hurry away, heart pounding, knowing some scars cut deeper than flesh. You stand in a Constantinople basilica, the 8th century's incense curling like ghosts around gilded icons, their painted eyes watching you. The air is heavy with myrrh and murmurs, as a priest in brocaded robes preaches that castration, the Empire's brutal punishment, is God's will, a divine scalpel to prune sin. The crowd nods, clutching crosses, but you feel a twist in your gut, the words ringing hollow against the screams you heard in the square. The blade that carved traitors was no holy tool, yet here, in this candlelit sanctum, it's dressed up as mercy. Byzantine justice, they say, spares the soul by breaking the body. You'd laugh if the irony didn't choke you, God's will or just a priest's bad day. The priest's voice booms, citing Leviticus and divine retribution, as if a rusty knife could carry heaven's blessing. Historical texts like the Ecloga legal code of Leo III frame castration as a merciful alternative to death, a way to reform sinners while serving the Empire's needs. Eunuchs stripped of earthly desires could guard sacred spaces or serve the Emperor. Their scars are testament to redemption, but redemption smells like blood and burns like a cauterizing iron. You shift, your sandals scuffing mosaic tiles, and notice a woman whispering, "They call it holy, but it's butchery." Her eyes dart to the altar, as if expecting divine protest. None comes. The horror is in the contradiction. A church that prays for love, yet blesses blades. Priests stood by as men screamed, their agony dubbed a path to salvation. You imagine a victim, his body ruined. Hearing these sermons, does he feel saved or cursed? The congregation sways, some faces fervent, others uneasy, their faith tangled in fear of the Empire's wrath. Sarcasm stings here. Castration as a divine PowerPoint presentation. Sin out, loyalty in, no refunds. You glance at an icon of a martyr, his wounds glorified, and wonder if the eunuchs in the palace see themselves as martyrs or monsters. The priest raises his hands, blessing the crowd, but you feel the weight of those screams echoing beyond the church's walls. You're in Constantinople's great palace, the 6th century's torchlight casting long shadows across marble floors. Before you stands Narses, a eunuch general, his frame slight but his presence heavy, like a storm trapped in silk. Once a slave castrated for reasons lost to history, he now commands armies, his eyes burning with a fire the blade couldn't douse. The court whispers as his name with awe and fear, his scars a silent challenge to the empire that tried to break him. You clutch a scroll, your fingers trembling as he paces, dictating battle plans with a voice sharp as steel. In the Byzantine Empire, castration was meant to crush men, but Narses turned his ruin into defiance. His gaze meets yours, and it's like staring into a furnace, anger, ambition, and something darker plotting in silence. Historical records like Procopius's wars praise Narses for leading Byzantine victories, his strategic genius defying his stigma. Castration stripped his body, not his will. He rose from slave to general, outwitting nobles who mocked him. You notice his hand, steady as he gestures, but imagine it gripping a dagger, ready to carve his own justice. The air hums with tension, as if the palace itself fears his next move. A modern analogy fits. He's the ultimate underdog, turning a corporate pink slip into a corner office. The court's nobles sneer behind their fans, calling him half-man, but Narcissus' smile is a blade of its own. You wonder what drives him, vengeance, pride, or sheer defiance. His victories mock the Empire's intent, proving a son a man's worth lies beyond flesh. You step back, heart pounding as he turns, his shadow stretching across a mosaic of conquest. Sarcasm cuts here. The blade took half of him, but left the half that wins wars. In his silence you sense a vow to outlive, outsmart, outlast. The Empire created a eunuch, Narses created a legend. You're wedged in a Constantinople crowd, the 7th century's heat pressing against your skin, the air thick with the stench of sweat and fear. The cobblestones under your feet are gritty, stained from countless spectacles, and the platform ahead looms like a grim stage. A man kneels there, a thief or perhaps a rebel, his eyes wide with dread as the executioner tests a blade's edge. The crowd's murmur swells, part thrill, part terror, as you realise this is no execution but castration, the Byzantine Empire's brutal warning to all who stray. You flinch, knowing one wrong step, one whispered treason, could land you in his place. The square pulses with dread, and you're trapped in its gaze. The blade descends, and the man's scream rips through the air, a sound so raw it claws at your chest. Blood spills, dark and slick, and the crowd's roar drowns your gasp. A mix of cheers and choked prayers. You see faces around you, merchants, mothers, children, some shouting for justice, others pale, their eyes darting as if the blade might turn on them. Historical accounts, like those in the Chronicle of Theophanes, describe these public mutilations as tools of control, etching fear into the Empire's heart. You clutch your cloak, heart hammering as a woman beside you mutters, "One mistake, and that's us!" Her words hit like a stone. Fear is the real punishment here, binding the crowd tighter than chains. You try to look away, but the square holds you, its energy a fever you can't shake. The victim's defiant stare, even as he's dragged away, burns into you. A reminder that survival comes at a cost. The Empire thrives on this terror, each scream a lesson. Obey, or bleed. Sarcasm stings here. Welcome to Byzantine law, where the audience is as much a prisoner as the man on the platform. You shuffle back, the crowd's weight pressing you, and realise the terror lingers, a shadow over every choice you make. One wrong word, and the square's gaze will find you. In the dim halls of Constantinople's great palace, the 11th century's torchlight flickers on walls adorned with saints, their eyes seeming to follow you. You're a scribe hunched over a parchment, recording the decrees of a eunuch named John the Orphanotrophos, whose influence shapes the Empire's fate. Castrated years ago, perhaps for rebellion, perhaps for politics, he stands tall in silk robes, his voice soft but commanding, a paradox of power and pain. The court bows to him, yet whispers of his cursed presence, as if his scars carry a shadow that taints every edict. In the Byzantine Empire, eunuchs like John weren't just survivors, they were architects of history, their legacy etched in intrigue and dread. John's hand gestures, steady as marble, but his eyes glint with a fire the blade couldn't snuff out. Historical records, like those of Michael Sellos, detail eunuchs as key players, advisors, generals, treasurers, trusted because they could sire no rivals, feared because they held grudges. John orchestrated Emperor's rises and falls, his mutilation a badge of survival that made him untouchable. You dip your quill, ink smudging, and feel the weight of his gaze, as if he knows your every thought. The palace hums with rumours, eunuchs plotting in secret, their loyalty a mask for vengeance. A modern analogy fits. Think of them as the ultimate insiders running the show from the shadows of a corporate empire. The horror is in their permanence. The blade meant to break them only forged men like John, whose influence lingers in every decree, every whispered plot. You glance at a mosaic of an angel, its wings sharp as knives, and wonder if he sees himself as divine or damned. His shadow stretches across the floor, too long, too alive, and you shiver. Sarcasm cuts here. The Empire thought it neutered its enemies, but it birthed legends instead. John's legacy is a silent vow. Castration took their bodies, not their will. As you write, the air feels heavy, as if their sands still speak, shaping the Empire's soul. You're in a grim Constantinople chamber, the 8th century's damp air, heavy with the reek of rust and vinegar. A wooden table, scarred and stained, holds the tools of Byzantine justice. A dull knife, its edge chipped from use, a bowl of murky liquid meant to clean it, and a cauterizing iron, its tip blackened from countless screams. You're no executioner, just a reluctant witness, your hands trembling as you watch the surgeon prepare for a castration, the Empire's brutal answer to treason. The prisoner, chained to a post, glares with eyes like burning coals, his breath ragged. The blade's dull, but it cuts deep, and you know the horror is in the tool's crude simplicity, designed to maim, not kill. The surgeon wipes the knife with a rag, the vinegar's sting mixing with the room's stale sweat. Historical records, like those in the Ecloga legal code, describe these instruments. No precision scalpels, just butcher's tools, often reused without care. Infection was a coin toss. Half the men died from fever, not the cut. The iron glows red in a brazier, its heat warping the air, and you gag as you imagine its hiss against flesh. The prisoner's muffled curse breaks the silence, his defiance louder than the clink of chains. You glance at the tools, their surfaces pitted, and wonder how many lives they've ruined. Sarcasm fits here. Medieval surgery, where the cure's worse than the crime. The act begins and the knife moves, sluggish but relentless, drawing a scream that claws at your ears. Blood drips, pooling on the floor like spilled wine, and the iron sizzle follows, the stench of charred flesh choking you. The tools are the Empire's silent enforcers, turning men into eunuchs to serve or suffer. You step back, your sandals sticking in the grime, and feel the weight of their purpose, to break, to warn, to control. The prisoner's eyes lock on yours, a vow of vengeance in their depths, and you realise these tools don't just cut flesh, they carve fear into the Empire's soul. The surgeon wipes his hands, the knife glinting ready for the next. You're swallowed by a Constantinople mob, the 9th century's sun scorching your neck as you stand in a packed square. The platform ahead is a stage for cruelty, where a man, maybe a spy, maybe a heretic, kneels, his face drained of hope. The executioner raises a blade, and the crowd's roar hits you like a fist, a mix of justice and savagery. This is castration, the Byzantine Empire's bloody spectacle, where punishment doubles as entertainment. You're caught in the throng's fever, their cheers a pulse that drowns your thoughts, but beneath it you sense their fear, their one misstep from the blade. It's a medieval reality show with stakes higher than any chariot race. The blade falls, and the man's scream slices through the noise, raw and ragged, blood splashing the planks like a painter's mistake. The crowd erupts, some shouting, "God's will," others laughing, their eyes wild with a hunger you can't name. Historical accounts, like those of Theophanes, paint these scenes as public rituals, binding the empire through shared cruelty. You see a merchant pump his fist, but his wife's face is pale, her hands twisting her shawl. The mob's bloodlust is a mask. Cheer too loudly, and you might draw the empire's eye. You shift, dust stinging your eyes, and catch a boy staring, his excitement fading to dread. Sarcasm cuts here. Justice? More like a circus, with screams as the main act. The man's dragged off, his eyes blazing defiance, and the crowd's roar softens, leaving a heavy silence. You feel their unease, the realization that this spectacle chains them too. The Empire thrives on this bloodlust, but it's a brittle bond built on fear of the next cut. You turn away, the square's heat pressing you, knowing the mob's cheers hide a truth. They're all prisoners of the blade's shadow. You limp through Constantinople's narrow alleys, the 9th century's twilight casting shadows that feel like they're mocking you. The pain from your castration, a punishment for some forgotten crime, gnaws at your core, a constant throb that spikes with every step. Your bandages, crusted with blood and sweat, chafe against raw flesh, and the stench of infection clings to you like a curse. Passers-by avert their eyes, their whispers, half man, cursed, cutting sharper than the blade that changed you. In the Byzantine Empire, survival was the emperor's mercy, but it feels like a sentence, each day a battle against a body that betrays you. You grit your teeth, the cobblestones cold under your feet, and wonder if living was worth the cost. The wound, sealed with a sizzling iron weeks ago, still weeps, a reminder of the square where the crowd cheered your ruin. Historical records, like those in Procopius' secret history, describe the aftermath. Chronic pain, urinary struggles, infections that killed as often as they spared. You pause by a market stall, the vendor turning away, and feel the weight of exile in your own city. Children point, their laughter a blade of its own, and you clench your fists, the pain grounding you. Sarcasm fits here. Surviving the cut? Congrats, you've won a lifetime of agony and side-eye. Yet you move on, driven by a stubborn spark, a refusal to let the Empire's blade define you. You dream of the palace, where some eunuchs rise, their scars hidden under silk. But for you, it's the streets, where every glance is a judgment, every step a reminder of what was taken. You pass a church, its bells tolling, and wonder if God sees your suffering as justice or cruelty. The pain pulses, but so does your will, a quiet vow to outlast the stairs. In the fading light, you're a ghost in your own life, but ghosts can still fight back. You tread softly through Constantinople's great palace, the 10th century's torchlight flickering on gold mosaics, but the air is thick with unease. A eunuch, Basil, moves past, his robes whispering like secrets, his eyes glinting with a cold intensity that makes courtiers flinch. Castrated for treason years ago, he now holds the emperor's ear, his influence a shadow over the throne. The palace hums with paranoia, nobles whisper of vengeful eunuchs, their loyalty as fragile as the glass in the chandeliers. In the Byzantine Empire, castration was meant to tame men, but Basil's presence feels like a curse, as if his scars breathe malice into the halls. You clutch your scroll, heart racing, and wonder if the blade created a servant or a spectre. Basil's voice, soft yet commanding, cuts through a council meeting, and you see nobles shift, their smiles forced. Historical records, like those of Michael Sellos, describe eunuchs as trusted yet feared, their lack of heirs making them ideal advisors, their grudges making them dangerous. Whispers say Basil plots in secret, his mutilation fueling a hunger for power or revenge. You catch his gaze, and it's like a blade across your throat, sharp and deliberate. The air feels heavy, as if the palace itself dreads his next move. A modern analogy fits. It's a corporate snake pit, but with togas and higher body counts. The horror is in the uncertainty. Does Basil serve the emperor or himself? Courtiers avoid his path, their murmurs hinting at cursed scars and unholy pacts. You pass a tapestry of angels, their wings like knives, and imagine Basil weaving schemes in candle-lit corners. Sarcasm stings here. The Empire thought it neutered its enemies, but it birthed ghosts who haunt its heart. His shadow lingers as you hurry away, the palace's grandeur no match for the fear he casts. Every creak feels like his step, every whisper his plan. You stand in a Constantinople courtroom, the 8th century's dim light filtering through high windows, casting bars of shadow across the stone floor. The air smells of dust and old parchment as a judge, draped in severe black robes, pronounces a traitor's sentence: castration, not death. The crowd murmurs approval, calling it mercy, but you see the prisoner's face, pale, eyes hollow, as if he's already a ghost. In the Byzantine Empire, the law spared lives to serve the state, turning men into eunuchs who could labour without threatening the throne. Mercy? more like a lifetime sentence, chaining a man to a body that's no longer his. You shift, your sandals scuffing, and feel the irony twist like a knife in your gut. The judge cites the Ecloga, Leo III's legal code, which framed castration as a divine compromise, punishment without murder, a chance for redemption through service. But redemption feels like a cruel joke when the blade leaves you scarred, shamed and shunned. Historical records detail the paradox. Eunuchs were trusted as advisors or guards, valued for their lack of heirs, yet mocked as half men by the same society that created them. You watch the prisoner led away, his steps unsteady, and imagine his future, serving in the palace perhaps, but always marked by the cut. A merchant beside you whispers, "At least he's alive." But his voice cracks, betraying the lie. Sarcasm fits here. Congratulations, you've been spared, just not your dignity, your identity, or your peace. The law's irony is its cruelty dressed as kindness. It promises life, but steals what makes it worth living, crafting servants who can never forget their punishment. You glance at the judge, his face impassive, and wonder if he believes his own rhetoric. The courtroom's silence feels heavy, as if the walls themselves know the truth. This justice is a chain, not a gift. You leave, the prisoner's hollow eyes lingering in your mind, a reminder that the Empire's mercy is just another blade, cutting deeper than flesh. You slip through Constantinople's great palace, the 10th century's candlelight casting jagged shadows on marble walls. The air is thick with incense and suspicion, as whispers, low, sharp like rustling silk, follow you down the corridor. They speak of eunuchs, men like Andreas, castrated for crimes long forgotten, now weaving secret networks in the palace's underbelly. His presence is a ghost's, his footsteps silent, but his influence hums, a current of dread among courtiers who fear his whispered plans. In the Byzantine Empire, the blade was meant to silence rebellion, but Andreas's whispers suggest it only sharpened his cunning. You pause, heart pounding as his shadow passes, feeling the eerie weight of his unseen schemes. Andreas glides into the council chamber, his robes dark as midnight, his eyes glinting like polished obsidian. Historical records, like those of Michael Sellos, describe eunuchs forming clandestine alliances, their loyalty to the emperor or to their own vengeance never certain. Whispers say Andreas controls spies, manipulates nobles, his soft voice a weapon sharper than any blade. You overhear a fragment of his conversation, words like Shielol and throne drifting like smoke. The air feels charged, as if his scars carry a curse that taints every deal he brokers. A modern analogy fits. It's a medieval intelligence network, with eunuchs as the ultimate double agents playing chess with the Empire's fate. The horror is in the unseen. Courtiers flinch at Andreas's approach, their smiles brittle, fearing his whispers reach the Emperor's ear, or worse, his enemies. You pass a mosaic of a serpent, its coils gleaming, and wonder if it mirrors his mind. Twisted, patient, deadly. Sarcasm stings here. The Empire thought it neutered its threats, but it birthed whispers that echo louder than screams. His gaze meets yours, brief but piercing, and you hurry away. The corridor's silence heavy with the sense that his network is everywhere, watching, waiting. In the flickering light, the palace feels alive with his secrets, a web spun by men the blade couldn't break. You weave through Constantinople's crowded market, the 9th century's clamour of hawkers and clanging bells barely drowning out the knot in your chest. The square where they punish traitors is just streets away, its memory heavy as the dust in your throat. You saw it last week. A man, maybe a soldier, castrated before a roaring crowd, his screams echoing long after he was dragged away. Now, every glance at a guard's spear or a noble's sneer makes you flinch, knowing one false word could put you on that platform. In the Byzantine Empire, castration wasn't just punishment. It was a spectre haunting every citizen, a reminder to obey lest the blade finds you. The market buzzes, but it's a nervous hum. Vendors lower their voices when guards pass, mothers pull children close. Historical records, like those in the Chronicle of Theophanes, show how public mutilations shaped society, turning fear into a leash. You buy bread, your hand shaking as you hand over coins, and catch a man muttering about the Emperor's spies. His eyes dart as if the square's shadow lingers over him too. The dread is universal. One accusation, one slip, and you're marked for the blade. Sarcasm stick calmings here. Byzantine justice. keeping the peace by making everyone a coward. You pass a shrine, its candles flickering, and wonder if prayers can shield you from the Empire's gaze. The horror is in the silence that follows the screams. You avoid the square, but its pull is inescapable. A grim stage where fear binds the city tighter than any law. A woman selling figs whispers, "Stay quiet, stay safe," her voice barely audible. You nod, your heart pounding, knowing obedience is survival, but it feels like surrender. The Empire's blade doesn't just cut flesh. It carves dread into every step you take, every word you swallow. You hurry home, the market's noise fading, but the public's dread clings like damp cloth, a weight you can't shake. In Constantinople's great palace, the 10th century's torchlight glimmers on polished marble, but a chill lingers in the air. You're a lowly scribe, your quill scratching parchment, when you notice Eutychius, a eunuch castrated for plotting against the emperor years ago. Now a chamberlain, his smile hides a dagger, his eyes glinting with a hunger for retribution. Historical records, like those of Michael Sellos, recount men like Eutychius, castrated to break their spirit only to rise as shadows weaving vengeance in the court's heart. His presence is a quiet storm and you feel it, your pulse quickening as he passes, his silk robes whispering like a threat. Eutychius moves with purpose, his soft voice swaying nobles, his schemes hidden in polite gestures. Whispers say he orchestrated a rival's fall, planting evidence of treason that led to another blade's work. The Empire thought it tamed him, but his scars fuel a fire the blade couldn't touch. You catch his glance, sharp as a blade's edge, and imagine him plotting in candlelit corners, his revenge a slow poison. A modern analogy fits. He's a corporate saboteur smiling through boardroom betrayals, but with bloodier stakes. The court's air feels heavy, as if his grudges linger in the shadows, waiting to strike. The horror is in his patience. Nobles fear him, their laughter forced as he advises the emperor, his words smooth but laced with intent. You scribble his orders, your hand trembling, and wonder if his smile masks a plan to topple more than one rival. Sarcasm cuts here. The Empire thought it broke him, but it handed him a chessboard instead. His shadow falls across your parchment, too long, too alive, and you hurry to finish, heart racing. Eutychius's revenge isn't loud, it's a whisper, a glance, a document misplaced, but it's enough to shake the palace's foundations. The blade took his body. He took its power. You walk through Constantinople's quiet streets, the 12th century's dusk softening the city's edges, the air cool with the scent of salt and fading empire. The square where castrations once drew roaring crowds now hosts merchants and stray dogs. The wooden platform long dismantled. The blade's brutal ritual, once a cornerstone of Byzantine justice, has faded. Its screams now echoes in old men's tales. You pause by a crumbling wall, graffiti hinting at past spectacles, and wonder why the Empire let this cruelty slip away. Even cruelty gets old, it seems, and the Empire, teetering under new pressures, found subtler ways to control. Yet the scars of those cut linger, a silent testament to a fading horror. Historical records, like those of Anakomnen, suggest castration waned as the Empire faced external threats. Crusaders, Seljuks demanding resources over spectacle. New laws favoured exile or fines, less bloody but just as punishing. You pass a tavern, overhearing a grizzled soldier scoff, "No more blades, just banishment, same leash, cleaner hands." The crowd's bloodlust, once a pulse in the city's heart, couldn't keep pace with a world needing soldiers, not eunuchs. The church too softened its rhetoric, calling mutilation barbaric as Western eyes judged. Sarcasm fits here. Byzantine justice grew a conscience, or maybe just got tired of cleaning bloodstains. The decline feels hollow. You imagine a survivor, his pain a daily echo watching the Empire move on without apology. The blade's absence doesn't erase its mark. Eunuchs still walk the palace, their influence a ghost of the ritual's intent. You touch the wall, its cracks like scars, and feel the city's unease, as if it knows the cruelty's shadow lingers. The Empire traded one punishment for another, but the dread remains woven into its stones. You walk on, the silence heavy, knowing even a fading ritual leaves wounds that never heal. You stand at the edge of Constantinople, the 13th century's dawn painting the Bosporus in gold. But the city feels weary, its grandeur fraying like old silk. The blade that once carved justice into men's bodies rests now, rusted in some forgotten armoury. Its era of castration's over. You imagine the last man to face it, his screams swallowed by a crowd too tired to cheer, his scars a final chapter in a brutal story. The Byzantine Empire, battered by wars and change, turned from mutilation to subtler controls, but the scars speak, whispering of resilience amid horror. You lean against a cracked column, the sea's salt breeze sharp, and feel the weight of those who survive the cut. Their lives are defiance of the Empire's intent. The last cut wasn't just an end, it was a mirror. Historical records like those of Nikitas Choniates hint at a society shifting where castration's spectacle lost its grip as the Empire faced collapse. Eunuchs, once broken to serve, outlasted the ritual, their influence lingering in palace halls, their pain a silent rebellion. You picture a survivor, his eyes fierce, walking these streets, his body a map of the Empire's cruelty. Sarcasm cuts here. The blade's retired, but its legacy's got tenure. The city moves on, its markets bustling, but you sense the ghosts. Men who turned agony into power, their scars louder than any law. You gaze at the horizon, where the Empire's end looms, and feel a strange awe. The blade took flesh, but not will. It broke bodies, but not spirits. Those who endured carried their wounds like banners, shaping history in whispers and defiance. The last cut wasn't the end. It was a beginning, a testament to human fire. You turn back to the city, its domes gleaming, and know the scars still speak, etched into Constantinople's soul. Like, share. Tell us your creepiest fact. History's curtain shadows are listening. You slip into Constantinople's great palace, the 8th century's torchlight glinting off gold mosaics, the air thick with incense and intrigue. Empress Irene stands before you, her gold robes shimmering, but your eyes catch the faint outline of a dagger hidden in her sleeve. She's regent for her young son, Constantine VI, ruling an empire that begrudges her power. Her smile is serene, but her gaze cuts like steel, and you feel the court's tension, nobles whispering, their loyalty as fragile as glass. In the Byzantine Empire, a woman on the throne needs more than prayers. She needs a blade. Rule an empire, bring a dagger, and keep it sharp. Irene moves with grace, her silk rustling like a whispered threat, but the dagger's weight is a secret only you notice. Historical records, like those of Theophanes, describe her as a master of intrigue, navigating a court where betrayal was as common as wine. You stand frozen, a lowly scribe, as she addresses a general, her voice calm but commanding. The dagger's presence is a silent vow. She'll protect her throne no matter the cost. A modern analogy fits. She's running a medieval startup, where every board meeting could end in a coup. You shift, your sandals scuffing marble, and wonder if her blade has already tasted blood. The court watches her, half in awe, half in fear, knowing one misstep could spark her wrath. Her piety, endless prayers, icon veneration, cloaks her ruthlessness, but you sense the steel beneath. Sarcasm stings here. An empress with a dagger, just another day in Byzantine HR. You catch her glance, and it's like a blade's edge, grazing your throat. The palace hums with danger, and Irena's hidden dagger is its heartbeat, a reminder that power in a woman's hands is a threat the empire can't tame. You linger in a shadowed corner of Constantinople's palace, the 9th century's candlelight casting eerie flickers on a mosaic of angels. Empress Zoe, radiant in purple silk, pauses by a table, her fingers brushing a vial that glints under moonlight streaming through a window. Whispers swirl. She's a sorceress, weaving charms to bend the court to her will, her beauty a spell that ensnares emperors. Courtiers shrink from her gaze, fearing the rumours, potions, curses, power bought with unholy rites. In the Byzantine Empire, a woman's strength invites suspicion, and Zoe's whispers are as potent as any blade. Her eyes, sharp as obsidian, scan the room, and you, a nervous servant, clutch a tray, heart pounding. Historical accounts, like those told of Michael Sellos, hint at Zoe's rumoured alchemy, elixirs to charm or poison, fueling tales of witchcraft. She leans toward a noble, her voice low, and you catch words like loyalty and fate, each syllable a thread in her web. The vial's glow feels alive, as if it holds secrets darker than the palace's shadows. A modern analogy fits. Her gossip's as viral as a TikTok hex, spreading fear faster than truth. The The horror is in the ambiguity. Does she wield magic or just cunning? Courtiers cross themselves, their fear cloaked in forced smiles, while Zoe's calm demeanour mocks their dread. Sarcasm cuts here. A potion to rule an empire? Beats a PowerPoint presentation. You edge away, the vial's glint haunting you, as if her whispers could summon spirits. Zoe's power, real or rumoured, binds the court in a spell of awe and terror, proving an empress needs no crown when her whispers can curse. You stand in a dim chamber of Constantinople's great palace, the 8th century's torchlight casting jagged shadows on stone walls. Empress Irene, regent for her son Constantine VI, paces before you, her gold robes glinting but her face a mask of steel. The air is thick with tension. The court stands as she orders her son's blinding, a brutal act to secure her throne. Her hand trembles, but her will doesn't, her voice cold as the dagger hidden in her sleeve. In the Byzantine Empire, power demands sacrifice and Irene pays with blood, proving an empress's crown is forged in ruthlessness. Historical records, like those of Theophanes, confirm Irene's chilling decision in 727, blinding her own son to eliminate a rival. You, a trembling scribe, record her command, the quill scratching like a warning. The room feels smaller, the air heavy with the scent of wax and fear. As guards nod, their loyalty bought or coerced. You imagine Constantine's screams, his eyes ruined, and wonder if Irene flinches in private. A modern analogy fits. It's a corporate takeover, but the boardroom's a dungeon and the stakes are flesh. Her gaze meets yours, unyielding, and you feel the throne's cost, a mother's love traded for an empire's grip. The horror is in her resolve, courtiers whisper of her piety, her icon devotion, but this act stains her soul. Sarcasm cuts here. Ruling an empire? Just a family feud with sharper tools. You step back, heart pounding, as Irene turns, her shadow looming like a guillotine. The throne's cost is clear. Power demands blood, and an empress pays without hesitation, her dagger always ready. You kneel in a Constantinople chapel, the 9th century's candlelight flickering on icons, their painted eyes solemn. Empress Theodora, restorer of icons, prays before you, her silk robes pooling like liquid gold, her hands clasped in devotion. But the air carries a whiff of blood, a rumour of her ordering a rival's execution just hours ago. Her piety is legendary, churches built, icons revered, yet her cruelty is whispered, a dagger's edge beneath her prayers. In the Byzantine Empire, an empress wears a pious mask, but her hands, stained with blood, tell a truer story. Theodora's voice murmurs psalms, but you, a nervous acolyte, notice her fingers city as if they've gripped a blade. Historical accounts, like those of John Skylitz's, describe her ruthless acts, exiling or eliminating threats, while championing the church. The chapel's incense chokes you, mingling with the memory of her court, where fear lingers like damp rot. A modern analogy fits, and she's a CEO preaching charity while signing pink slips in blood. Her eyes lift, meeting yours, and you shiver, sensing the steel behind her faith. Sarcasm stings here. Praying for salvation, plotting for power, just another day for an empress. The horror is in the duality. Courtiers bow to her holiness, but dread her wrath, their prayers laced with fear. You light a candle, its flame trembling, and wonder if her faith absolves her crimes. Theodora kneels, blood on her hands in spirit if not sight. Her pious mask, a shield no icon can pierce. The chapel's silence feels like a held breath, her power a hymn sung in shadows. You stand in Constantinople's great palace, the 8th century's torchlight casting trembling shadows on marble columns. Empress Irene, regent and ruler, sweeps through the hall, her gold robes glinting like armour, her hidden dagger a whispered rumour. You bow, a nervous courtier, but her gaze cuts sharper than steel, pinning you where you stand. The court hums with fear, nobles clutch their goblets, their smiles brittle, knowing one wrong word could spark her wrath. In the Byzantine Empire, an empress's power is a blade held to every throat, and Irene wields it with a calm that chills the soul. Her voice, soft but commanding, silences the room, and you feel the weight of her authority, heavy as the incense in the air. Historical records, like those of Theophanes, describe courtiers trembling under Irene's rule, her ruthlessness, blinding her own son, proof of her resolve. You notice a general avert his eyes, his hand twitching as if expecting a blade. A modern analogy fits. It's a corporate boardroom where the CEO's smile hides a guillotine. Sarcasm stings here. Cross an Empress? Hope you've got a good lawyer or a fast horse. Her gaze sweeps past you and your heart pounds, as if she's measured your loyalty and found it wanting. The horror is in the silence that follows her steps, the court's fear a living thing curling like smoke. You edge toward a tapestry, its threads depicting martyrs, and wonder if anyone dares defy her. Irene's power, forged in a man's world, makes her untouchable, yet terrifying, her dagger a rumour that feels all too real. You bow again, your breath shallow, knowing her gaze could summon your doom. You hover in a candlelit chamber of Constantinople's palace, the 11th century's shadows dancing on walls inlaid with pearls. Empress Zoe, radiant at 60, adjusts her purple robes, her smile humming with secrets as she toys with a silver ring said to hold a charm. Rumours swirl. She bends emperors and nobles with potions, her beauty a spell that defies age. Courtiers whisper of sorcery, their fear cloaking her power in mystery, her every gesture a potential curse. In the Byzantine Empire, Zoe's influence is a web, and you, a trembling servant, feel ensnared, her charm's power as potent as any throne. Zoe's eyes, bright as polished amber, meet yours, and you freeze, clutching a wine pitcher. Historical accounts, like Michael Seller's Chronographia, hint at her rumoured elixirs, blending herbs or worse to sway the court. Her ring glints, and you imagine it hiding a powder that could topple a rival. A modern analogy fits. Her charm's a viral hack, hijacking the palace's pulse. Sarcasm cuts here. A potion for power? Beats swiping right for loyalty. Her smile widens, as if she knows your thoughts, and the air feels heavy, like a spell settling over you. The horror is in her enigma. Magic or manipulation? Nobles bow, their loyalty bought by fear or fascination, while you sense her charms hum, a secret woven into her gaze. You back away, the ring's glint haunting you, as if Zoe's power could summon shadows to bind the empire. Her smile, serene yet sharp, proves an empress needs no crown when her secrets rule. You stand in Constantinople's throne room, the 9th century's torchlight glinting off golden mosaics, the air thick with the scent of myrrh and ambition. Empress Theodora, restorer of icons, sits enthroned. Her purple robes a bold challenge to the patriarchs who sneer at her rule. Her eyes, sharp as the dagger rumoured to hide in her sleeve, sweep the court, mancing nobles who mutter about a woman's place. In the Byzantine Empire, Theodora's defiance is a fire, burning through a man's world that seeks to cage her. A woman ruler? The patriarchy's worst nightmare, and she's rewriting the script. Theodora's voice, clear and unyielding, decrees new laws, her authority defying the grumbles of bearded clerics. Historical records, like those of John Skylitz's, praise her for saving the empire's faith while outmanoeuvring rivals with ruthless precision. You, a trembling scribe, jot her words, your quill shaking as a general bows, his pride swallowed. A modern analogy fits. She's a CEO crashing a boys' club, her every move a power play. Sarcasm stings here. A woman on the throne? Cue the medieval meltdown with extra prayers. Her gaze meets yours, a spark of defiance that feels like a dare to challenge her. The horror is in the tension. Courtiers fear her, not just for her dagger, but for her audacity to rule as a woman. You feel the court's unease, a coiled spring ready to snap. Theodora's defiance, bold and unapologetic, reshapes the empire, proving power needs no crown, only will. You step back, heart racing, as her shadow looms, a testament to a woman who burned the rules and thrived. You linger in Constantinople's great palace, the 11th century's twilight casting long shadows across marble floors. Empress Zoe's legacy, a blend of rumoured sorcery and ruthless cunning, hangs over the court like a storm cloud. Her crown shines, but her dagger gleams, a reminder of the blood and whispers that secured her throne. Courtiers still speak of her in hushed awe, fearing the charm that bent emperors, revering the woman who ruled against all odds. In the Byzantine Empire, an empress's shadow stretches far, blending awe and terror into a legacy that haunts history's pages. Zoe's reign, detailed in Michael Seller's Chronographia, wove beauty, power and fear into a tapestry that outlasted her. You, a weary servant, pass a mosaic of her, its jewels glinting like her rumoured potions. Her defiance, marrying, ruling, surviving, challenged a world that sought to bind her. A modern analogy fits. She's a viral legend, trending through centuries with a hashtag of dread. Sarcasm cuts here. An empress outshining emperors, the nerve of her, stealing the spotlight with a dagger's edge. Her shadow lingers, a whisper in every decree, every wary glance. The horror is in her enduring power. You feel it in the palace's silence, as if her gaze still watches, her charm still binds. Her legacy, forged in defiance and danger, proves an empress's will is sharper than any blade. You leave, the air heavy, knowing her throne's shadow falls long, a beacon for those who dare to rule. Like, share, tell us your creepiest fact. Empresses like Zoe still cast their spell. You sit at a Constantinople banquet, the 10th century's candlelight glinting off silver plates, the air rich with roasted lamb and spiced wine. A noble across the table grips a strange tool, a fork, its two prongs gleaming like tiny spears, mocked by commoners as Satan's cutlery clearly. The crowd snickers as he stabs at a chunk of meat, the fork slipping, sending grease splattering. In the Byzantine Empire, forks were aristocratic novelties, their pronged shapes sparking whispers of demonic ties among the pious. You smirk, clutching your knife, but can't shake the eerie glint of that silver prong, as if it holds a secret. The noble, red-faced, tries again, his fork a symbol of wealth and ridicule. Historical records, like those on Byzantine cuisine, note forks as elite status symbols, predating Western use, yet scorned by commoners who preferred hands. A priest nearby crosses himself, muttering about the devil's tools, his eyes narrow with suspicion. A modern analogy fits. It's like flaunting a smartwatch in a medieval chat room. Fancy, but you're begging for shade. Sarcasm stings here. A fork to eat? Might as well dine with a pitchfork. The banquet hums with laughter, but the fork's glint feels uncanny, as if it's cursed to draw eyes and ire. You watch the noble fumble, the crowd's mockery a chorus, and wonder why something so simple stirs such fear. The fork locked away like a jewel divides the room, elite refinement versus peasant scorn. You sip your wine, the fork's prongs catching light, and feel a chill, as if its strangeness could indeed be unholy. The banquet continues, but the devil's prong lingers, a tiny rebellion against the hands that feed. You're at a lavish Constantinople feast, the 11th century's torchlight dancing on silk-draped tables, the air thick with cumin and nervous laughter. You grip a silver fork, a noble's toy, its prongs awkward in your hand as you stab at a slice of pheasant. It slips, plopping into your lap, and the table erupts, courtiers hiding grins behind their cups. In the Byzantine Empire, forks were elite status symbols, but wielding one was a gamble, refinement or ridicule. You blush, feeling the room's eyes, and curse this medieval fine dining 0 stars for ease. The pheasant mocks you, grease staining your robes as you try again. The fork's weight foreign compared to a trusty knife. Historical accounts, like those on Byzantine dining, describe nobles fumbling with forks, their clumsiness a public sport for servants and guests. A lady nearby giggles, her hands deftly tearing bread, while a priest mutters about unnatural tools. A modern analogy fits. It's like using chopsticks at a burger joint, flashy, but you're the punchline. Sarcasm cuts here. A fork for sophistication? Good luck keeping your dignity. You stab again, the meat holds, but the laughter lingers sharp as the prongs. The horror is in the exposure. Every fumble strips your status. The fork a traitor in your hand. You glance at the host, his fork gleaming untouched, a prop for power. The table's gaze feels like a trap, and you wonder if the fork's curse is real, its prongs a jest from some impish spirit. You set it down, defeated, the banquet's hum a reminder that even a utensil can humble a noble. You stand in a Constantinople noble's chambers, the 10th century's lamplight casting soft glows on a velvet-lined box, locked tight as if guarding a relic. Inside lies a silver fork, its prongs gleaming like tiny swords, a treasure of the Byzantine elite. The noble, draped in silk, handles it with reverence, as if it's a crown, not a utensil. In the Byzantine Empire, forks were more than dining tools. They were status symbols, locked away like gold, their use a mark of wealth and refinement. You eye the box, its ornate clasp glinting, and feel a strange unease as if this treasure holds a curse. The noble recounts how the fork, a gift from a diplomat, cost more than a farmer's yearly wage. Historical records on Byzantine cuisine note